doesn't matter if you're a woman, it doesn't matter if you're a man, it doesn't matter if you're a child, it doesn't matter if you're old. So many people will decide that their mid 40s is it. If you lived for another 40 years, that's twice the living that you already did.
To inspire young girls to dream big, first we must introduce them to women that they can relate to. I'm Asma Al-Badawi, and this is Beyond PE.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Beyond PE. Today I have such an amazing guest and I'm so excited because this is my first Sudanese guest, Tamadur. Tamadur, please say hello to everyone and introduce yourself to them.
Hi, my name is Tamadur. I am Sudanese, yes, and I recently started practicing Muay Thai. Alhamdulillah, I got to compete in a national tournament, and I was able to win the division belt for my weight class. And then shortly, a few months after that, I did a North American tournament, which is a little bit smaller, but I was able to win the belt for that too, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. I remember seeing your first video where I think you were doing an interview and I was like, I need to know who this girl is. Like, I was so inspired and I'm sure so many Sudanese people around the world are as well. So can you tell me a little bit about like where you grew up and how you even started playing Muay Thai?
I was born in Sudan at my grandma's house, but I was 9 months old when we immigrated to the States. We lived in New York for like all of my initial upbringing. I did elementary school, but it was a little bit after that my dad decided like, oh, these kids are like, they can't speak the language. They're like losing their cultural identity. So he sent us back for 6 years. And I did middle school and high school there. And like when it was happening, it's like, oh my God, this is crazy. But in retrospect, one of the greatest things that could have happened, I feel a lot more connected to my roots, a lot more connected to family. It would have just been, oh, that distant cousin had I not gone. And now I have a name, a face, and it's really just so important to keep those ties. So that was the best thing that came out of that 6 years. After my last year of high school, the college opportunities weren't phenomenal. My older sister did uni there, so it's great, but I moved back so that I could do university in the States, and I went to school for pharmacy. We were from New York, but I moved to Ohio, and it's been like 8-9 years that we're here in Toledo, Ohio. So I went to pharmacy school, graduated, alhamdulillah. I work as a licensed pharmacist now, and I have enough time that I can enjoy my hobbies and my extracurriculars without, like, not at the expense of my lifestyle or my career. When I finished college, I actually moved to Columbus, which is where I practice Muay Thai right now. I had been doing like Krav Maga and like cardio kickboxing in Toledo, and it was nice, but there wasn't any technique. So when I moved to Columbus, apparently the gym that I go to now is like world renowned for jujitsu. Like their jujitsu coach is like a really big deal. And they have like second to it is the Muay Thai program and a few of their other programs. So after having the opportunity, I registered. I was like, oh, well, this is going to be like my kickboxing class. It was not.
It's never is.
Apparently, no, it was not. Apparently your coach can just like kick you, throw you around if it's for your betterment. So very, very different, but very much enjoyed.
So I actually did jiu-jitsu when I was 14. Absolutely loved it. It was like the first martial arts that I ever tried. I felt like I wanted to do it forever, but then I moved away. But that's like a story for another day. What I'm really happy about is that your family wanted to take you back to Sudan to connect you with your roots. I was actually born in Sudan as well, in my grandma's house. in a small village. And then we came to the UK when I was 1 and 3 months. And it wasn't until I was 11 years old that I went to Sudan for the first time. And it was really, really strange because I just remember like always constantly talking to these family members on the phone. And it'd be like, "أتكلم مع خالك, أتكلم مع عمتك." And I'm just like, I don't know who these people are. Like they all sounded the same to me. They asked the same questions. How are you? How's your education? How's life over there? And then when I got there, it was these questions that were like, do you like England more than here?
Do you know who I am? Do you remember me from the phones?
Yeah, and it's
Do you know
like,
who I am? I'm your uncle's wife's cousin's mother. You gotta
some
know me.
distant relative. And what that actually did was introduce me to my extended family. I was so shocked when I realized my mom has like a mom and my dad has like a family. It was like so weird. I'm like, you have a brother? I'm the only one who has a brother. And then over the years, over the years, I kept going back, completely fell in love with Sudan because it's just a complete different world to the rest of the world. So I wanted to also ask or touch on what was sport like for you in Sudan? Did you play any sports in school?
Sudan is just its own like ecosystem, like its own environment, subhanAllah. The placement of it in the Afro-Arabian Horn is just different enough that I don't think there are any other countries or cultures quite like ours. It's very familiar to a lot of things, closest being to Arab culture, I would say. But there's a lot of intersectionality in who you are when you're Sudanese. If you're Sudanese outside of the States or outside of Sudan or Sudanese in Sudan, there's a lot of misogyny because it's easy and it's practiced. So a lot of people will say things, not because they necessarily believe it, unfortunately, but because enough people say it that to say something different is just wild. So it's very much a go with the flow kind of mentality, and anybody that goes against it gets eaten. So I do believe that, and there weren't opportunities. Like like the school I went to was a international school, and there was a lot of opportunities for boys. So like they had like the school had a big field, two soccer courts at either side. The boys could play during their lunch breaks before. Honestly, they would play with a ball, they would play with a water bottle, they would play with whatever they could get their feet on. But for the girls, there wasn't a space on that floor. So if I was to go out there and say, I just want to move my body, I just want to use my instrument, I want to run around. Whoa, what's that? Why are you why are you mingling? And it's not that these things have a lot of basis in religion, because at that time I was still a kid. I was like 11, like this is middle school. It's really just, this is inappropriate, go sit down, go do what's like more appropriate. So there really weren't any sports. Could I or any of my classmates pushed for it? I'm sure we could have. I'm sure we could have. There was a basketball court, there were basketballs. Our PE class, they taught us things like ping pong. And um, I don't know what it is about anywhere outside of the West where ping pong is a big deal. Table tennis, just a big deal. Needed to be taught in class, like PE class, everybody line up, ding, ding, ding. But no, there just was no opportunity for sports, which I do think comes at a detriment to people's health, because women's health is very different from men's health. Girls at that age need to be moving around, need to be regulating their hormones, and all of that with exercise. All of these things play in to incorporating exercise as a lifestyle, as part of the lifestyle in adulthood. Not that it's something recreational, it's necessary. You eat because it's necessary. You breathe, you drink, you do all of these things. Movement is a part of that, in my belief. So it's sad. It's sad that that's not prioritized in that way.
I noticed that the first few years that I went to Sudan, it was so difficult for me to find anywhere to train. It was just kind of like I'd ask around, they tell me mafi, like mafi basketball here. And then eventually, I would say like in the last 5 years, I started seeing more and more. And I ended up coaching actually for like a couple of months at one of the universities. And then I realized that there's like this whole underground world where Sudanese girls play. But if you're not like in the group, you don't know. You have to know someone who knows someone who knows someone who's in
And
that space.
it's so crazy because like how big is Sudan? There's so many provinces. We forget that Khartoum isn't Sudan. These things are actually only in the capital too. So like, or maybe there's undergrounds in all the provinces and we just don't know. But there's like apparently like a women's soccer team that like competes and stuff. I recently just found out that there is a MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai gym in Khartoum. I stalk their Instagram and I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm just a fan. Don't worry about me. I like leave comments on everything. I bet they think I'm a troll.
I think
But
I know that group. They started about 2 years ago and they're doing like amazing, amazing stuff. I always see the women, especially the ones in hijab, because I feel like they're the ones I'm more aligned with. But I'm just like, whoa, like I want that strength. I want to be able to fight like that. And it's something new to Sudan, but I'm just so happy that women are so enthusiastic about it and they're actually taking part. I
they
remember
competed in like the African, I think it's like the International Federation of Muay Thai or something like that. But there's an international one, and then there's like a continental one, and apparently there was like an African one, and they like took third or something. I think everybody like won something.
I think their coach is Sudanese, raised in the US. I will put his Instagram up here actually, if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah.
And the page, because it was a breath of fresh air for me. Like, but Jed, when I saw it, I was like, this is amazing. And I do remember actually, like, when I was playing and coaching in those spaces, there was some girls who would always tell me like, my family are not 100% comfortable with me playing, or I can play, but I have to be back before Maghrib. And
Yeah.
even some of the girls were like, my parents don't know I'm here. And I found that really disturbing. But I think a lot of it goes back to the idea of eb. And sometimes your family members don't actually care if you're playing the sport, but they don't want the neighbors and the Jiran to start speaking. So I think they tend to like put pressure on their daughters to not continue this thing of fear of what other people will say. I saw your interview and I'm pretty sure that interview went pretty viral. How was that? Viral, so viral. So how was that for you? Like finding yourself in a position where you suddenly reaching women and Sudanese women especially around the world and saying I play a sport and I'm here to win.
So that interview was hilarious, beginning to end, because I walked in with my team. My team for my gym had 13 competitors in that tournament. And one of the larger gyms, people usually bring like five-ish, 10 is a good number. We had 13. And as soon as I walk through like the main lobby, there's a table of these people and they're selling something. But one of the guys like flags me down. You, come here. And I'm like, hello, how are you? And he's like, he wants to say, what are you doing here? Because that, like, who's the odd man out? Is you. And like, if it wasn't an older gentleman, I wouldn't have, like, excuse me. But I'm like, oh, hello, what's the sitch? So he's like, he literally stammered for a while to get to the question of, are you competing? Is there any issue with you competing? with your hijab and everything. Because I came in with my hijab and my leggings with my shorts on top and everything, like looking very different from everybody else. And he's like, if after your fight, can I come and talk to you? I just want to interview a few people about A, B, C, and D. And after that interview was after my first fight. So already I'm like, alhamdulillah, got that out of the way. I feel very good. I was just like in my mental chemistry, just vibing. And he comes over and I'm like, cool, I can do this. I feel good. And I had 2 more fights that weekend. So finished the interview, and my main emphasis is my faith. Like if I had to say I had like a driving force, like as far as adjectives go, you'll say like, oh, I'm a Black woman, or one would say that I'm a Black immigrant, or there's all of these words. I would first and foremost, before any of the others, say I'm a Muslim, Black woman, or any of these things, because it's what shapes my thoughts, forms my opinions, and influences my decisions. So when he asked me about everything, literally my first thought was just, how do I not disappoint Rabbi in this answer? So, because like if this reaches even one person, I don't want them to think like this is all me. If I won, and I did, alhamdulillah, it was by the grace of Allah and mercy on me in that moment, because all of these women were phenomenal. They all had as much training as I did. Everybody was there with heart, like they were there to win. And the worst thing about winning is that somebody else has to lose. And especially when it's women, like, we're all here. Oh my gosh, I have to fight you. No, what have I chosen? But when I walked into the ring, a part of the Thai tradition is to seal the ring. And I didn't know if I could do that because I think it's a relatively Buddhist practice. So I was like, all right, I'm making this my own. And at each port, like at each corner of the ring, I said, Allahu Akbar, Rabbi Sturni. And I made the dua that Musa made before, alayhi salam, before he went to confront Fir'aun. And I was like, رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. And I'm just around the ring. I'm like, cool. Now it's me and God versus whomever. I'm good against whomever. So that part for me was comfy. The other thing is I was like, I just need to make anything I do ibadah. So if in this moment I have dhikr and I'm God conscious, I'm cool. It's a vibe. And I tried to relay that in my interview. So afterwards, he's like, nice, thanks, cool. And after I won the belt, it's like a big lobby. You can't walk through it humbly. Like you got the thing, everybody sees you, you're going to your team. There's like 15 people shouting. So I walk through the crowd and the guy's like, you come back here. You won more stuff since our last conversation. So the interview was very funny, but I never shared it. My gym did. And a distant friend in Columbus, who is also in the Muslim community, shared it and was like, yo, I know that girl. Then my friends who are friends with that person shared it. Then other Sudanese people started sharing it. Then Sudanese Instagram pages started posting it. And my dad was in Sudan at the time. So when I told him I was going to compete, he was like, why would you want to hurt somebody? Why would you want to hurt yourself? All of his reasons were care-based reasons. I get that and I value that. But I think in adulthood, parents can guide us, but I think we're a little bit past making decisions for us. I'm alive and I will be asked and questioned for my decisions. And so it's time for me to make them. And he's like, I just don't want you going. I don't think that's a great idea. I was like, love you. Thank you. I hear you. And I'm gonna do this. So my dad is very traditional Sudanese. And he has a reputation in his community, and he has 5 daughters. So I super get how these things might affect him. Well, they affect me too. Like, I'm important too. I matter. So I went, and then the video went viral. And I don't know if at the end of the conversation, his takeaway was, I said that. My daughter is good and obedient. She will not compete. Because he's like, why did you compete? He's like, everybody's sharing this video. الناس بتتكلم. People are talking. Somebody showed me this video. My dad doesn't know the internet. Somebody brought him this video. So he's like, subhanallah, my dad is very harsh and can sometimes say the wrong thing. And it's taken a lot of years of valuing him as a person and seeing what he means versus what he says to get to this point. But I did take away some themes of, I kind of understood that you weren't going to, and I feel a little bit betrayed. I understood some things along the lines of, people are telling me things now. And I was like, I'm sorry. At that point, I am more important than people's opinions. My opinions matter. So that one, right out of the conversation, right into the trash. That one I don't value. It doesn't matter who is telling me. I love my parents and I would hate to hurt them. And I do avoid things that would hurt them in a way that we all disagree with. But for things that I think are valuable, that they matter to me, we can have some give and take. So he was upset and he's like, just don't do it again.
And then you did it again.
I did it again. And gosh darn, I just keep winning.
MashaAllah. But I think with time, parents understand and see why that mattered to you, and they understand the power of your daughter doing it. You know, like, it's my daughter doing it. And I absolutely love what you were saying about how you have your own rituals where you actually you take refuge in Allah and you basically tell yourself that this is part of my ibadah. I feel like as Muslim women, we don't have the freedom to do that the way men do. There's so many footballers that I see, like, as soon as they score a goal, sajda. If you started doing sajda in the middle of a basketball game, people will be like, no, this is too much. Like, that's the hijab. And then on top of that, you're bringing your spirituality to the court. But actually being a Muslim is so much more than the hijab. It's your whole demeanor. It's your whole compass. I say the same dua that you say before I play a game. I say the same dua before I did this interview. It's part of our life, you know, and like, we're constantly evolving in different ways in our, like, outside world in terms of our career, etc. But for me as well, I always feel like this is down to Allah. And I remember asking Allah for everything that he gave me today. And I remember not asking anyone in the whole entire world. So all the blessings that I have now, alhamdulillah, I always know, like, okay, that came from Allah. And I love the fact that you said that, and you didn't care, like, this is who I am, this is my faith, and may Allah be pleased with me. That's it.
I also wanted to touch upon what you said with the hijab. I really despise that internationally, people really think a woman's ibadah stops at hijab. She has accomplished it. She's accomplished it now that she wears hijab. And period, put a dot in it, put her in the closet, just end of story. I think it's very cheap. I think as I'm getting older too, I'm recognizing a lot of Muslims anywhere around the world are struggling. We're just struggling to get by from point A to point B, let alone C being akhirah. So like, it's really incredible for anybody, male or female, to say that this is the best way to practice bro, I can barely get through the average way to practice. And you're going to yell at somebody about the best? Let's take a step back. Men are struggling. I used to think it was so corny when after a competition or anything, guys would do this thing. Like this guy. Until I realized that is so hard, even just to the field for spirituality and faith sometimes isn't the most welcomed. So even just saying that, look, I do think this is my one God that got me through this. Now I'm just like, okay, cool. Good job, bro. But that's something. Especially because like for men, sometimes it's not so easy to be outwardly or to seem religious. Whereas like women, it's like you wear hijab, you do good God stuff. And it's like, ooh, that's so elementary. So like remembering to incorporate ibadah into things, dhikr and all of that is so important. Even the idea of sajda, I've seen so many like Muslim guys after Muay Thai competitions, when they put the belt or anything on them, they get down and do a sajda. And I'm like, oh, I admire you. MashaAllah. So it's nice. It's nice.
It's so nice to see our faith in all these different spaces, like people from our community. I've seen so many people who do the cross or who have their own different rituals, and no one says anything, you know. And I think in a way we are more accepting of this in football more, because I think football is slightly different in the sense of you score a goal, there's a bit of time. You know, like you can't do that in basketball. Like you can't take a break, you know. It's like, no, you make this
Yeah.
and then you have to keep going. But sports like football give you room to celebrate, and I think people are so excited in the goal that they're not really concentrating on what does that actually mean, you know. But so what do you feel like is next for Tamadur?
I think that so long as you're alive, it's about asking that question constantly. It's always asking yourself, is this enough? If this is enough, quite comfortably, feel comfortable letting that be enough. Be happy. Enjoy the present. Enjoy what you've achieved and accomplished. And move on to the next thing if that's what you want. And if that's not enough, set a plan, set a goal on what the next best thing is. Ask people for advice. Go to your peers and your higher ups and make that plan for yourself. Figure out what it is that you want to do. You might not know, and it's absolutely fine not to know. Whose time are you wasting? What time is getting wasted? It's not a waste if you're alive and you're conscious through it. That was a part of your journey. And the next bit that you get to, enjoy that too. Just keep living, just keep thinking, reassessing, reevaluating, and making decisions. It is very important to be decisive. I find in adulthood, if you want something, you do that thing, and then you accept the consequences, be they good or bad. There's a lot of risk and there's a lot of benefit. Sometimes risk yields consequence, benefit yields rewards. And you won't know unless you do it. It's very nice to think, well, I just got to get up. Do you know how many times this week I told myself I'd get up before work out, so that because I knew I was working 13-hour shifts, I'm not going to the gym afterwards. Did not, but I'm content with that. And I reassess and I make a new plan for next week. All right, turns out the morning thing's not going to happen. So, how do we incorporate it into the evening? Whatever it takes, because that 20-minute workout is necessary, because I need to do it consistently and yield consistent results. So, this week was a flop. Next week, bi'ithnillah, shall not be. But the only person who will reap that consequence is me if I don't do the work. And I think people really need to hold themselves to a higher standard if they want to achieve higher, more valuable results. And the only value is in what you assign to it. I don't care if you win a belt, if you care if you win a cup, if you win any of these things. Did you do the work? Did you get there? One of my fights, I was actually so disappointed, even though I won, alhamdulillah, because watching it back, I'm like, oh my God, I did not do any of the things I said I was going to do. At one point, I latched onto the woman and just, she was so tall I'm 5'3" and she was 5'9". I latched onto her and had to use her body weight to jump and knee her. I should have abandoned the plan. Okay, kick her. Like, no, this isn't like a tree, like, mashallah. But afterwards, I was like, ooh, I need to be more cognizant. It isn't just about the win, it's about how you achieve it too. And there's absolutely no shame in not knowing what you're doing until you know what you're doing. Like, it isn't, will I have a goal to, in 3 years, I'm going to do this. No, man, whoa, set smaller goals. Set smaller, achievable goals, and they will get you to your big picture. You'll get there. But if you don't enjoy the small goals, it'll always feel like you're waiting to live in that moment. You have to live now, be present, enjoy these moments, enjoy these goals. It was so hard for you to get to that small goal. Don't act like it was, yeah, I totally did that. No, it's very hard even to achieve those small little goals that you set for yourself. So once you achieve them, have a little celebration. On to the next one, on to the next one. You'll find that the journey to the end goal was so much more enjoyable that way.
I absolutely love that, because I think even for me, like, I've not played basketball for the past couple of months, and it feels like I want to play, but at the same time, I actually want my body to rest. I talk about like having disordered eating on my social media quite a lot, and I used to always think of it as I need to eat 705 million meals, to get to the weight that I want. And like, oddly, like, since I moved and I live in a city that's pretty quiet, I started cooking more. Like, I've started just going into the kitchen and finding things and being like, oh, let me put this with that. I've started making breakfast. I've started like little things that I feel like I never did, even when I was an athlete, like a proper full time, or at least I didn't think about it. But I know 100% I was never the kind of person who had breakfast, had lunch, had dinner, and then had a snack. And this idea of snack didn't even exist in my mind, in the sense of like, I'm going to go to the shop to buy yogurt and raspberries and honey, and I'm going to put this together. I would normally just go to the aisle where it's like the dessert is already made for you. Yeah. Pick it up and leave. But I'm enjoying so much time away from the sport, and it's actually given me the opportunity to do stuff like this, which I've been wanting to do for years. And in my mind, it had to be this amazing thing with like proper production and cameras and like everything, and I had to be there with the guest. And eventually I was like, I just want the message to be out there, that we're Muslim, that we're sporty, that we love life, and we have a faith that contributes in so many ways to our success in this life and the next one. And that's it. So eventually I did this.
Yeah. No, alhamdulillah, mabruk. It's exciting, and I'm so happy for you to be able to enjoy this. A lot of labor went into so many things for you to get to this point, obviously. And the biggest labor is always in the mind, like to be able to decide that I will. All right, we're doing it.
Yeah.
So,
thank you. So I'm gonna ask you one more question now. So what message do you want to give to Sudanese girls all over the world and women from your story?
If I had to have one last thing, if people are going to take one thing away, it's that you will have barriers. You will have barriers. If you're alive, you will have barriers. And quite frankly, you will break them down. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a woman. It doesn't matter if you're a man. It doesn't matter if you're a child. It doesn't matter if you're old. So many people will decide that their mid 40s is it. If you lived for another 40 years, that's twice the living that you already did. Okay, that's like, so no, there's no such thing. A lot of people will think that they're too young, I'll get around to it. No, if the thought occurs to you, it's because, in my opinion, God put that thought there. Like, what you do with it pertains to you. You might dismiss it and say, no, I don't, this is not for my comfort level, not be it religious, cultural, whatever it is. I'd like to conform to what I believe in. And that's good job that you came to that conclusion. Phenomenal. And if you decide that I would like to do this thing, you will run into barriers, be it cultural, be it religious, be it, and when I say religious, obviously not anything that is not permissible. Things that people may tell you is there's going to be a lot of researching to be done. Cultural, I love culture. Culture is very important to us, and it's what connects us to the people before us and the people to come. You will be a part of that fabric, of that mosaic. So it's very important to respect that. I truly believe that. However, you can be a different color on that mosaic. It doesn't have to be just like everybody else's. So go ahead, do something different, and it won't be bad. So you will have barriers. Your family, who you love and whose opinion you care about, may be one of those. And in a very respectful, very proper way, you will have to navigate that. But it does not mean that you make yourself small to show them how big and important they are to you. No, 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 no. You guys occupy the same space. It's fluid. There's ebb and flow. I love you guys. I absolutely value what you're telling me. And I value what I have to say as well. I hear you, but you must hear me. Because I matter. I matter. You gave birth to me. You told me I matter. So this is the time for you to show it. So conversations like that are going to be very important. And yes, it might sound corny. It might sound easy right now as I'm saying it. No, these are very difficult conversations. They're actually little micro conversations that you'll have every day that challenge them just a little bit until they come to the conclusion that you're a challenging person and they can handle it. So that's very important. No matter what the barrier is, you have the mind. What you need now is the confidence. And that's something you build, you practice it little by little by little. You build up to the confidence that is necessary to achieve the goals that you've set. So set them big. And the only thing that'll happen is you'll grow and you'll grow and you'll grow. And you will be who you need to be, because who you need to be satisfies who you want to be.
I love that. And that's like such a great place to kind of end the interview. This idea of whatever you want to do in life, do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't make excuses. And also have those challenging conversations with your family, with the wider community, not just for yourself, but for the generations to come after you. Where can people find you on social media if they want to get to know you more?
I am on Instagram. Don't judge me. I made it when I was like 18 and I wasn't in pharmacy school yet, but it's Pharma what? So PHARMA what? And yes, that is my Instagram. I don't have anything else unless I remember that I do. And if it is inactive, it's the only thing that I'm actually on. And
no problem.
I can incorporate more like sports things in it, but it is my private page. And I just kind of welcome anybody who wants to chat with me.
Jazakallah khair. I absolutely enjoyed this talk. And I literally could talk to you for the rest of the day. But I know you have stuff to do, like your hours behind us. Like your day is just starting. But Jazakallah khair. For everyone that's watching, please follow Tamadur and watch out for next week's episode, inshallah, where I'll be speaking to more amazing guests from around the world. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.